And so as we were taking off or starting to land, I caught myself go back into that sort of restrictive way of being. But I was like, oh, I'm here again. Hang on. It's like, of course I'm going to land. Of course everything is going to be fine. I have a purpose for being here. And I felt immediately my shoulders dropped. Immediately the tension left my body. My heart was not pounding. I didn't have the emotional feeling like I was going to cry anymore. And it was just a very clear and peaceful way of being through that landing. And you can do the same in your business. You can have that very peaceful way of going about your business where you're really just trusting that what you're here to do, you are supported by something bigger than yourself. You are supported. And of course, you're going to figure it out. It might not go smoothly, but you're going to figure it out and it is all going to be okay. Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. This is the Conscious Edge podcast, and I'm Alicia St. Germain, entrepreneur and coach. Along with my friend and wellness advocate, Jonathan Duggar, we're diving into what it means to embody radical self-acceptance while still evolving to lead with compassion and kindness. We're sharing our own experiences and expertise as we unpack imposter syndrome, perfectionism, procrastination, and all the other things that lead to burnout and keep you from experiencing pure joy, business growth, and maximum impact. This is a safe and supportive space to explore what it means to be a human creating wealth and building a business. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. When you are doing things that are outside of your comfort zone, like so many entrepreneurs are doing as they're going to the next level, it can rub up against the parts of you that say, this is unsafe. And you can have physical body reactions. You carry stress in your shoulders, your heart pumps, and things can feel just downright uncomfortable. And to a point where if it becomes too stressful, too overwhelming, you're not going to want to do the thing. And so I want to take today and walk you through some of the things that I do and some of the things that you can do that will help alleviate these physical body reactions, mental, emotional reactions that may come up as you are working through hard things. So I'm your host, Alicia St. Germain, and this is the Conscious Edge podcast. My regular co-host and wellness advocate, Jonathan Duggar, is traveling right now, so he will not be with us. But this episode is really inspired from a recent experience I had when I was traveling to our retreat a few weeks ago. And it's so fascinating how sometimes, no matter how much you know, how much you have practiced, how much expertise or experience you have, and this is some things I coach around all the time, it's very easy when you're in stressful situations to throw back into old ways of being or just natural protective states of being. And this is where mindfulness and some of the tools that I use become so supportive. So I want to take you through that journey and give you some very direct things that you can start utilizing in your life right now that are going to make it a lot easier for you. If you are brand new here, I want to say welcome and make sure that you hit the follow button. We come out with new episodes every single week, and the episodes range from just about anything that is involved with building a business, creating wealth, and being a human doing it. So everything from the emotional intelligence side of things and mindfulness to strategy to finance. We cover just about anything is on the table, because building a business is such a emotional experience. You're developing resilience. You're going through and having these new experiences, figuring out what you're made of. And if it was just as easy as just do what I'm told and then I'll get the results, everybody would be wealthy and have businesses. But it's not that simple. So we really wanted to create a podcast that explored and was very raw and real about what this actually looks like. And I do a lot of that through documenting my own journey as well. So if you have been with us for any amount of time, I want to, of course, say thank you for always being here. You are so precious to me, and it's so appreciated. All right, so here's the story. Here's what happened. So I used to travel all the time for work. I worked with a company that taught individuals how to invest in real estate. I traveled around the country from the age of 24 until the age of 34, actually before that, but up until about I was pregnant, almost ready to deliver my first child. I traveled around the country 2 to 3 times a month, going in for a few days, teaching a real estate investment technique called wholesale, where you learn how to buy properties at a deeply discounted price, negotiate them, and then turn those properties for profit to other investors. So I was very used to traveling, is my point. I thought nothing of it. And then I had my children and I didn't travel as much, and still not a big deal when we traveled. And then, of course, we had the pandemic, and I just noticed some things in me shifted a little bit. And so as my children have gone into school now and the possibility of traveling is more of an opportunity for me, it's something that I'm willing to do. I should say I'm willing to do now, just as our life has changed. I've started taking on a little bit more travel. And one of the things we did was, of course, we had the retreat. And so I'd noticed in the few times that I've traveled recently that I feel a little anxious when I travel. And you might be thinking like, well, what does a podcast about business and entrepreneurship have to do with having anxiety when traveling? Well, number one, I know I'm not the only one. I know there are plenty of people out there that deal with their fear of traveling, and people who oftentimes will have a fear of something, and it will keep you from opportunity that maybe you actually really deeply desire to bring into your business or things you desire to do. The feelings and the emotions that you go through, it doesn't matter if it's a personal thing or a business thing. They can be very similar. So I kind of noticed that I have a little feeling of anxiety when I fly recently. And so here I am, I'm on the plane. I'm super excited. We're going to run our first retreat, and we've got this amazing group of people coming and everything, right? I should be so excited about. And as the plane is taking off, I notice, and this is where mindfulness comes in, is when you can learn to step out of yourself and observe the thoughts that you are having, the feelings, where it is showing up in your body, and just notice that it's there. It can give you so much information about what is going on, and can give you data that you can then unpack and say, okay, so what was that about? What can I do to counteract that? How can I work through this? Instead of being completely captive to your emotions, where your body is literally saying, we are unsafe, danger, danger, danger. We should never fly again. We should not do this. To, okay, what can I do to make this a more enjoyable experience for myself? And so I'm noticing as I'm taking off, at first I didn't, but I realized like my shoulders are super tense. I'm like gripping the seat of the plane for dear life, as though like that's going to keep us from falling. And I'm really mindful about how I say things, because I know words and our thoughts have so much power to create our reality, I am very, very careful of how I say things. So we're getting ready to take off and we're going quickly. We're on the runway. And I'm like, please let us arrive safely. Please let us arrive safely. Please let us arrive safely. Like I'm almost just like saying it, but I'm saying it with so much intensity. It's not just putting intention towards letting the pilots have clarity and making sure that they're feeling great and calming any anxieties that anyone else around me is having, like setting those intentions for people. It wasn't from that place. The reality is, even though I was saying the right words, and I could probably guess why I was feeling so much more anxious than normal, even though I have been a little bit more in the recent past. But to be perfectly honest, all of the plane crashes that have recently happened, that really was affecting me. And of course, the day I'm supposed to take off and leave, I open up my headlines. I had already taken myself off of all social media, Facebook, Instagram, because what was happening was my feed, I kept being fed these plane crashes. And like old plane crashes that had not happened for several years, the way that the algorithms work, whatever you happen to show interest in, the algorithm is going to start to show you more and even out of date things. And that's what I find so fascinating about social media is it can really make it appear as though things are getting worse or more dangerous or different drama that is happening in the world. Social media absolutely amplifies it. I am convinced of that. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've experienced it in myself, that the way the algorithms work, they will absolutely make things even more dramatic by showing you plane crashes that happened several years ago, plane crashes that are not even relevant to what's happening right now. So I'd already taken myself off of social media coming into the retreat because I knew that I wanted to get there. I wanted to be really focused on the retreat. And this was not supportive of my mindset. So I think that that's one thing to really notice in your life is if something is not feeding you in a positive way that is having you be able to show up in a powerful way, it's disempowering, it's creating feelings that are even maybe false feelings of worry and anxiety and overwhelm and dread, and just really not supporting you in that way, then it probably is not going to be good for your mind to feed on that. And so it's really being conscious and controlling what is going into your brain. So as you're building your business, what you feed your brain matters. So who you surround yourself with, the types of books that you read, the types of podcasts you listen to, that is really important that you're careful about what you're feeding your brain with, because that is the first thing. So I took myself off social media. I was not going to allow that stuff into my brain going into this retreat. So I also know that those things did affect me because we did recently have some plane crashes. Devastating. And so, of course, I open up my feed first thing in the morning before I head to the airport. And in my headlines, it's the plane that flipped over. I think it was in Toronto. So the plane flipped over in Toronto. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is happening? Like, why am I being assaulted with all of these headlines that are not supportive of me getting to this retreat? So I know that my emotions, despite my efforts to control what was going into my brain, there was things that were kind of accidentally getting in that affected me. So I know that's why I had a higher than normal feeling of anxiety on this plane. So I think being really thoughtful and mindful of like, why is this not particularly normal for me? I have a tendency toward it, but it's not particularly normal. I think it's important for you to ask yourself, why am I feeling more sensitive about this? maybe than I normally would be. And take a look at what's been fed into your mind. So here we are, we're taking off, I'm white knuckling it, right? And I'm going, please let us arrive safely. Please let us arrive safely. But if I'm being really honest, the intention with this is actually, please God, don't let us crash. Please don't let us crash, right? And I don't want to say that. I don't want to put that in the world, but that's really what I was feeling. And I was worried about my kids and not being with them. I was worried about my husband. I was worried about what would happen if the retreat. I was worried about living. Like I really wanted to live. And so I was just having this such an intense moment to the point where I've got my eyes closed really tight and I feel this single tear like come rolling down my face. So here I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm on this plane and I'm literally now have a tear come running down my face. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, how did I get here? What is happening? And so I'm thinking to myself like, oh, maybe I need to do retreats local to me where I don't have to travel. Maybe I'm not going to be able to travel. I'm thinking about just what does all of this mean? I've noticed it in my body. I've noticed my thoughts. I now have my feelings. This is all part of mindfulness. And what does this mean? And so I've got this 2.5-hour plane ride to Austin, connecting in Austin, then heading on to Phoenix. And my friend Shannon gave us this book for Christmas called Abundant Ever After by Kathy Heller. And she gave it to me and she was like, I want you to read this. I know that you're going to love it because everything in this book is so you. Like it's how you live your life. It's all the things you always tell me. It's so you. And I'm thinking to myself, in the same respect, there's been a couple of instances like recently where Shannon has also said to me, gosh, you know, what you're saying, this just doesn't sound like you. This doesn't sound like you. So I thought that was really interesting in hindsight to like reflect on how she'd say like, that just doesn't sound like you. So I have this book with me and I open it up and I was like, okay, I'm going to read. You know, I've gotten through takeoff and landing are always the most scary. I don't know if they are for you, but they're always the most scary for me. And so I've gotten through the takeoff and I open up the book and very early on in the book, she starts to talk about probability versus possibility and how so often we make decisions in our business from a place of what has happened in the past, from our past experience or the experience of other people, what we've observed. And so we make decisions about what we will do based on the probability of something happening or not happening, as opposed to opening ourselves up abundantly to what is possible. Like what is possible if we believed something different? And I talk about this all the time when I'm working with my clients. And one of the things we do is we get very clear on some of the big assumptions that people are making that are keeping them from hitting their goals, keeping them from getting what they want in life. And a big assumption is essentially what you believe unconsciously will happen if you take certain actions, if you put yourself in the way of opportunity. So it's really about, it's an operating style. It's what you think will happen and how you protect yourself based on how you think the world operates and how you function in it. And so I work all the time with big assumptions and opening up additional possibilities. If you did not believe what you believe, what would be possible? So of course I'm like, well, I see why Shannon thinks this is me. But I'm like, wow, like this is really fascinating that in my mind, I am really worried about this plane crashing and me literally not existing anymore. And number one, the probability of that is very low. Like when you look at statistics, my drive to the airport was more unsafe than actually me being on that plane. But because of what had been fed into my mind, I was really going to that very extreme side of things. And I was like, okay, number one, the probability of that happening is very low. But also, the way that I live my life typically is from a place of mission and being mission driven. And if you've listened to any of my previous podcast episodes, you know that I truly believe that every single one of us is here for a purpose. We have a calling, something that we serve, a mission here that is for humanity, for the earth, for a purpose that is much bigger than ourselves. And so when we are in fear and scarcity, we really are coming from a place of self-centeredness and being very focused on self, as opposed to being focused outward. And so as I started to really think about, why am I here? Why am I headed to this retreat? I'm here because there's a whole group of people who are wanting to connect to their purpose, who are wanting to reconnect with why they do what they do, and are looking to play a bigger game in the world. They're looking to grow their businesses in a way and think in ways that they've never thought before, never allowed themselves to think, or have even shut themselves off from the possibility of dreaming about what it could be like to do bigger things. So I know me getting to this retreat, I matter. It matters that I'm going to get to this retreat, and this is going to be life-changing for people. I also know that I'm here to raise two little amazing humans, and I have that role as well. And I can't control what is going to happen in the world, but I know when I start thinking about the fact that I have a purpose, I have a reason that I am here, and it is beyond me or bigger than me, I started thinking thoughts like, of course I'm going to make it to this retreat. Of course I'm going to make it home safely, because there are people who are depending on me to show up and support them. And so when I start thinking like that, of course I'm going to make it. There's a complete shift in the way that my body feels. There's a confidence and a sureness that comes from that place, because I realize that I matter and that I'm here to serve others. And I think when you start to shift yourself from a place of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me? I'm not going to be okay, to, of course I'm going to be okay, and I'm going to figure this out. And there are people who are depending on me. I have a strong why. You show up differently. And so what I want you to understand is that you have to notice these thoughts and feelings first. And then you have to start replacing them with new thoughts that are supportive of your mission and what you're doing in the world. Replacing them with thoughts that are focused outward and not inward on self-protection, but focused outward. That doesn't mean I'm not going to trust my gut instinct and put myself in situations where I'm just flippant and very, very reckless. Because when I matter, when I get that I matter, I'm also not going to just be haphazard with my life either. But I don't have to worry about things that are probably not going to happen. And if they do, I get to just trust that there's a purpose for it, that there's a reason that that's happening. And it doesn't matter what I think. It's beyond my control. One of my favorite books, Brene Brown has a book called Atlas of the Heart. If you are someone who struggles to name your emotions, or have not really been very connected to your emotions, and that is a journey that you are on, I highly recommend Atlas of the Heart. And she kind of categorizes emotions in a really profound way. She talks about them as places, like emotions as places. So like places we go when things are uncertain or too much. And I think about getting on a plane, getting there is a certain amount of lack of control that you feel, and it's uncertain. And so I can understand why flying could cause the stress and overwhelm and anxiety and worry, because those are the places that we go, some of the places we go when things are uncertain, according to Brene Brown. So it's not lost on me that you would have these experiences in certain instances. But when we focus out, when we realize, of course, I'm going to be able to figure this out. When thinking about your business, when you're taking a risk, right? So there's a risk. This flying is, I use flying in so many analogies in my coaching in describing things, but flying is very much representative of that place where you're going when things are uncertain. When you're taking a risk in your business and doing something that is outside of your comfort zone, something that is new, you are not completely in control of what is happening, the outcome. There are other people that you have to depend on, a pilot. There are other people around you you can't control. And then there's these like laws of gravity, these things that just happen that are really quite neutral, but they come up. And all of that is out of your control. All of that is uncertain. And so very much taking those risks in your business can feel the same. But the thoughts that you think affect the way that you feel, which causes you to do certain behaviors. So if you're going to be taking on those things, why not think supportive thoughts? Why not drive feelings that are empowering and keep you motivated and don't cause additional stress in your body so that you can take actions that are supportive of what you actually envision for yourself, take actions that are powerful, as opposed to choosing actions that are protective and will keep you small and have you living into a very small life versus everything that is possible and available to you. So interestingly, I start with these new thoughts and I reconnect to my vision, what I'm up to in the world, my mission, what I feel called to. And it was like, oh, of course I'm going to make it. Of course this plane is going to land. And so as we were taking off or starting to land, I caught myself go back into that sort of restrictive way of being. But I was like, oh, I'm here again. Hang on. It's like, of course I'm going to land. Of course everything is going to be fine. I have a purpose for being here. And I felt immediately my shoulders dropped. Immediately the tension left my body. My heart was not pounding. I didn't have the emotional feeling like I was going to cry anymore. And it was just a very clear and peaceful way of being through that landing. And you can do the same in your business. You can have that very peaceful way of going about your business where you're really just trusting that what you're here to do, you are supported by something bigger than yourself. You are supported. And of course, you're going to figure it out. It might not go smoothly, but you're going to figure it out and it is all going to be okay. And so my thoughts, I still had my rituals of please send good, clear, calm energy to the pilot. Please calm the fears of anybody around me. Please support our flight attendants in making sure that they're not missing anything, that they have real clarity and focus. So I'm having those same kind of intention that I took off with, but now it's coming from a really clean place. It's coming from an abundant place. And it's the difference in feeling. So if on my next flight, I unpack all this and have come up with this whole podcast, of course, and I've really processed through what happened. But I'm kind of describing things for you as they unfolded. And so what I would say to you is look at, are you just going through the right actions? You're saying and doing the right things, but you feel stress and tension. That tells me you have some big assumptions and some beliefs that say what you are doing is actually unsafe. And unless you are tending to those thoughts, everything that you're doing in your business that feels like a risk, that feels outside of your comfort zone, is going to continue to cause stress and dis-ease in your body. And that is what leads to the burnout and the overwhelm. When you are doing and saying the right things and you're coming from a peaceful place, a place of knowing that you will figure this out, a place of trusting that everything is happening for you, that is where you want to be doing your business from that place. And if you're not doing your business from that place, I want to invite you to reach out to me. Let's hop on a call. I will help you go through and figure out what are the big assumptions that you are making that are causing all of these emotional reactions, all of this behavior that is self-sabotaging you and keeping you from getting what you want. We will go through, we will diagnose that together. We will figure out what are the big assumptions you're making and come up with a plan. If anything, you can either choose to work with me and I'll support you through that, or you will come out of that call with more clarity to at least see it happening in your life. And then it doesn't have as much of a hold on you at that point. So this is how flying relates to your business, the entire journey of being in your business. As I was coming home from this trip, it was so fascinating to watch myself transform on the way there and then to the flight home. The flight took off, the flight landed, I did my thing. Never did I feel at all unsafe. Now, could something happen? Of course. But worrying about something happen does not prevent it from happening. So managing our minds and looking at how we be in the world, how we go through the world, that is what makes the journey so much more enjoyable. It is going to increase the likelihood of success for you. You are not going to have as slow and as painful of a process when you operate from this place. So with all of that being said, I'm sending you so much love. And if Jonathan were here, he would say, be well. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe and take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.